Hey guys, back with video two, talking about the areas of investigation. So this is the pretty much the second part of your portfolio after the identification of need. I might suggest you go back and look at the introduction video, which kind of explains where it all fits in. But basically, this is the areas you're outlining to investigate, and you will investigate them later in the research section. I've put the must-haves. These may be different, not everyone would have all of these things, but this is just one way to do it. So, an opening statement. The opening statement can be good for a number of reasons. I'll put a little bit more down in here, like lead-in paragraph. Um, this can help explain to your teacher that you understand what you're doing in this section. That's why I kind of like it when students do it and they say, this is why the areas of investigation are important. It's not necessarily going to get you any marks in the portfolio, but it will, it will stop any wrong research and things like that later on. So the main things that you need to do is to outline the areas you wish to investigate, how you will investigate each area, and give direction to the research. Why you're investigating each area is obviously really important as well. And as per usual, at the end of each section, it's really important to do an evaluation because that becomes important in part three of the portfolio. So the band six, I know I put band six here, but this just means a high mark. I like to put band six in there because it makes you think that you're aiming for something high. So describes relevant areas of investigation which relate clearly to the need and provide direction for further action. Just like in the previous videos, I am not going to, let me get rid of that. I'm not going to go over all this stuff, but you're more than welcome to pause the video now and read a little bit further into what it might be. But pretty much, I just want to show you an example of a scaffold and then show you a sample of what it might look like. So have a good look at this stuff. But keep watching the video. I actually like this one. I did a couple of different layouts. Probably this one's pretty much the easiest. So the area I'm going to investigate, why it will be researched, why it's important, how it will be researched, and what my primary and secondary research might be. The HSC markers comments, so they said in better responses, candidates include a broad range of relevant areas to be investigated with supporting discussion on the how and why of the intended design project. They also include analysis of a range of logical and relevant areas. Remember that, they've got to be relevant areas that could possibly be researched and the methodologies to be used to inform the development of the product, system, or environment. So this is the methodologies, really, if you want to break it down, like how am I going to do it? What am I going to do primary? What am I going to do secondary? Primary is like mostly first-hand, as you probably know. Do I take a focus group of some industry experts? Do I do a survey or something? Do I just try and find something out firsthand and get my own research information? Secondary might be trying to find things that already exist, maybe on the internet, maybe looking at books and things. What's the research that's been done before? So that's a breakdown of your primary and secondary. And you try and outline things that you can do for each area that would be primary or secondary. So let's have a bit of a look at a folio example. Lots of people will start, I'll just make that bigger. Lots of people will start with a mind map of their areas of investigation. So they're thinking, okay, and I've gone back to the skateboard example. What do I need to think about if I'm designing a folding skateboard? The safety and standards, the materials, obviously the aesthetics is important. You want people to buy your product at the end. Who your target market might be, what sort of equipment and skills you might need, and how's it going to function. And then trying to branch out from that. So it does look good in your folio if you've got some sort of mind map that shows you've been thinking about it. And again, I'm not saying this is the ultimate and this is the best for every single project, but having a mind map is not a bad thing. In terms of a scaffold, this is probably a little bit different, but What's the area I need to investigate? Why it will be researched, like why do I need to do this? How am I going to research it? And what's my further action? And you can see in this one's probably a little bit different. Uh, Sometimes I set it up differently than this, but this particular student, he's given a little bit of what the primary might be. He hasn't necessarily listed the secondary. Sometimes I'll say in the further action, okay, this is my primary, this is my secondary, this is what I'm going to do. And in here, I'm just describing how I might do that. So again, there are probably 20 different ways that you can set this out, but hopefully this gives you an idea of one way to do it. So in this particular case, and remember this is like a few years old, and some teachers, some people who will be marking your folio would definitely do it a bit different, but this is one way. Hopefully it gives you an idea. So first of all, I did the equipment and skills needed. NESA outcomes, like this is not that important, but that's what we're following. So he wanted to make sure that he didn't get penalised for marks or get deducted marks. I think it's pretty important. In this case, his primary was he talked to some ex-students from his school and he looked at some previous folios and he tried to figure out, exactly what the way it was laid out and, tried to have a look at some good stuff that had been done before, which is always not a bad idea. The secondary was he looked at the NESA outcomes and the marking guidelines. So it kind of set him up to know that he only had 80 pages. He had to use this size font. He could do this. He couldn't do that. He had 6 minutes of video and so on. So not a waste of time researching this stuff. That's for sure. Started to look at the function, broke it down a little bit more. So function up the top, and then starting to break it down into what am I going to need? So it needs to be transportable. It needs to have a locking mechanism for the trucks, if you know about skateboards, to hold the wheels on. He needed to lock it up and be able to fold it and unfold it, so the hinge locking mechanism. It needed to be easy to use, so pretty important. Let's look at this one. In order to create a successful product, it needs to be easy to use. Primary and secondary, so testing with a range of target market users. And secondary is analysing similar designs. It's obviously not the first folding skateboard in the world. I think although it was very popular at the time that he made this and it was just starting to come to market, why not have a look at what other people are doing? So he's done his primary and secondary research there, as you can see. Aesthetics, obviously always important. He wants to sell the product. He wants his folding skateboard to be appealing to the target market, to the people that might buy it. So some information there. There's going to be a budget and cost, as usual, looking at what people would normally pay for a skateboard. I mean, you need to design it for a price less than, or not less than, but a reasonable price so it can be marketable, essentially. What materials you might use. Project management's pretty important. Like the whole thing is based on project management. How am I actually going to complete this in the time that I have? What am I going to look at? Thinking about the target market. There's no point designing anything. The NESA way that the design technology portfolio is laid out is a design process, and it's a pretty good design process. But if you're a designer, there's no point at all designing something if the target market is not going to be interested in it, because then it would obviously become a fail. Safety, it's a skateboard. There needs to be some safety in there. And he's thrown in an evaluation at the end. So in this case, he used about 4 pages to complete that, which is reasonable. But he gave himself direction all the way through. So if we just go back quickly and have a look at the key words, we're looking for relevant areas. Yes, check. They were relevant. They were what he needed to think about not only for his portfolio, but also for designing a skateboard. They related clearly to the need. So each one of those had an aspect of it that you would need to think about if you were designing a folding skateboard. And with the primary and secondary, he had direction for further action. So To make life easy for you, to scaffold it like this one is probably pretty easy. Here's my area. Is it relevant? Yes. This is why I'm going to research it. Proves that it's relevant. And I've got my further action here because I'm saying this is how I'm going to do it, primary and secondary. The one thing I would say that students forget in this area is later on in the portfolio, they don't actually research what they said. This is your, this is your map, if you like. It's your guide to what will be researched later on. So that's the areas of investigation. Again, if I can recommend you go back and watch the introductory video first and work your way through the videos, and I hope this helps. Thanks.